Mistakes I have made as a Christian. Now, this is a video that is going to be uncomfortable to make. I'm really shining a light on myself, but I figured we always do videos where I'm trying to teach you something, where I'm always sort of maybe coming across a little bit as a teacher. But I think the one thing I want to make completely clear is that I myself am a sinner. I need to be saved, right? That is the very reason why I'm a Christian, because I trust in the Lord that He will be the one to give me Savior and allow me to live my life in the light of the Lord, right? So everything that I do in terms of being successful, getting to a certain standard or echelon in life, it will always be owed and due to God. So when I look at these mistakes, whenever you watch my videos, don't assume that by any means I have it all figured out, that I am without sin, because I am absolutely not. In this video, I'm literally going to walk you through some of the sins that I've made. And I guess you can use this as a way to write, Josh has done this, therefore I'm not going to do this anymore. So it's help. By me sort of shining the light on myself, you may perhaps be new in your journey, you may be rooted and very seasoned in your journey as a Christian, and maybe it's just a nice little reminder, right? And I think the more that we can be honest and open about ourselves, that really forms one of the core fundamentals of communication, which is not spoken about enough in this world. We don't speak anymore because we've got social media, because everything is accessible from an app, you can get it within seconds. I feel like we've lost this ability to talk, to speak to one another. I'm going to tell you something that I think is in the Bible, but it's worded a little bit differently. But I'll just tell you the way that I learned it myself, right? So picture this: you're speaking, but let's just say me and you are having a conversation right now. I can spot right from your face right now if you've got a little bit of food in your mouth or you've got something on your face. Yet my nose is about an inch or so away from my mouth. I physically cannot smell if my breath smells absolutely terrible. But yeah, I can spot from a foot away, 10 foot away, that you look funny, or you've got a wonky eye, or you've got something that is wrong with you, an imperfection. How funny is that? This teaches us that ego and our own sort of sense to look beyond ourselves, but yet we're always quick to judge others. How is it that we can judge others yet not judge ourselves? To think that we are free from judgment, and that ultimately by judging others, that's doing God's job. That when it gets to judgment day, God will look at us and think, you know what, you did my job, you get a special spot with me. It is not going to work that way at all. One of the biggest things that you can learn is to not judge others, and if you are to speak to someone, speak in a way that is going to help them, speak in a way that you would speak to yourself. Again, one of the main commandments is love thy neighbour as yourself. So that little thing that I just taught you then is just an interesting way that I hope you'll start to become more aware of, because you'll find that, especially in workplaces, there's gossip absolutely everywhere. So and so did something on the weekend, and did you hear that he used to do that in the past? Or what you'll find, especially with Christians, is that you'll have these Christians convert and they'll have big online presences. First thing they do is like, nope, doesn't count because the past was this, or the past was, so and so, full of sin, and they're somehow not qualified to be a Christian. It is not, and I need to make this super clear, it is not our power as humans to have that level of judgment. We do not get the saying if that is righteous or not. Even with the word of the Lord, it's not us that gets to say that. It just simply isn't. So you've got to understand that, these people, to be saved is to be saved, right? You can be a Christian, it's all about returning to Christianity, to return into the arms of the Christ. So you cannot judge people whatsoever. You see that all the time. But I guess if we're going to go into some of the mistakes that I made, I think, and I guess I can reference this to 1 Kings with Solomon. A big thing I've had in the past is consumerism, right? So when I like something, I want to have lots of it. I will buy lots of it. A big thing I'm literally looking at right now is perfume. I've spent hundreds, thousands and thousands of pounds on perfume that I just straight up did not need. The books behind me, I love books, and I think, I don't know, books can somewhat get an exception, but there have been times where I've spent too much money on a book that has not been financially responsible, because I have put my pleasures and I've put what my flesh wanted above what was right in that situation. I did not need, I've got like 60 bottles of perfume. I straight up do not need 60 bottles whatsoever. And it's a thing that I'm beginning to look at every single day and think, I just did not need that whatsoever. And I think consumerism is a ticking time bomb, because if you start off with the small stuff, maybe video games, consoles, shoes, I was really big for clothes and just always buying loads of stuff. This is essentially going to manifest, and it's going to snowball and get to bigger and bigger things. This is where you get drug addiction from, it's where you get addictions. And I think if you can learn to nip that in the bud early on, consumerism is definitely a mistake that you want to try avoid as a Christian. Now, there will always be things that we do need, necessities of life, food, for example. But again, with food, we get the greed of food, which is one of the seven deadly sins, seven deadly sins, and this idea of having more than you need. I think that's really what I'm trying to point towards here. It's okay to have nice things. It's okay. I do like perfume. It is something that I enjoy, but I don't need 60 bottles, do I? I'd be fine with 5 and just rotate those around. That would be financially responsible. It wouldn't be greedy because I have more than enough. But then what happened was I started to think, right, well, I need this one for summer and I need this one for winter. And then I started to go on social media and other people started to influence that for me. This is the kicker. So when it comes to you buying lots of things, your phone is always listening to you, not to go down that rabbit hole, but it is always collecting information on you. Every time you visit a website, it's looking at things that you look at, and by default, it's going to present more of those things to you. So I had a TikTok that was literally just full of perfume, and then before you know it, I was following people and I was buying stuff based on their recommendations. There's stuff in that collection that I didn't even go and try. I just bought it because so and so said it was good. So you see how greedy I got with these things. And it's been a thing that I've battled with for a long time, in the sense of like buying clothes, shoes, all of these things where I just always felt like I needed more. And you see the words that I'm using, I'm very particular with the words. I always felt like I needed more and I had to have these things. I would blur the lines between what was needed, what was required, and what was enough. And I would basically merge them into the same thing. So if there was a perfume or a book that I would want, I would word it in a way to myself that made sense where it's okay to have it. I actually need it because it's missing my collection, and by having it in my collection, it's going to make things better, or it's going to make my collection better. It's going to make me happier. So you have to be careful with how your mind will play tricks on you, because everything you're seeing in this Western world is there to work against you. It's wanting you to fall deeper into sin. It's wanting you to fall deeper astray and out of alignment with God. So that's consumerism. The next one would absolutely be ego. So I'm sitting behind a big bookshelf right now. I have been reading for as soon as I could remember picking up a book, right? So when I was a kid, I would never have like all like the latest games consoles. I didn't grow up in that type of environment. So naturally books were a good thing for me. I remember reading like, Harry Potter's and fiction books and stuff like that. And then when I was sort of like 17, 18, I started to read business books, mindset books, spiritual books, quantum physics books, pretty much anything that I could get my hands on that would allow me to become better. I would be watching webinars. I've had mentors in the past, still have mentors now. And ultimately, at the start, these things began to give me a massive ego because I was like, well, I've just done something that you haven't, therefore. And I would never walk around thinking that I was better than someone. It's just I would walk around thinking, well, why haven't you done that? I've done it, so why haven't you? Or I can do it, so why can't you? And it gave me this sense of ego that, well, I guess looking back, it was something similar to that. It was that I thought I was better than other people. I'd walk into a room thinking, you know what, I'm top dog right now. I'm the man right now. And there are pros to thinking that you are a very capable individual, but never should that be underlined with you are better than someone else, because you're not better than anyone. There is not a single chance on this earth that not one human is therefore better than another. It's just simply not true. So the ego was a real big thing for me because I would read these books and start thinking, you know what, I know something that you don't. Therefore, it makes me more qualifiable for this job. It makes me a better candidate. It just makes me a better person. And I think a lot of this will serve you long term. Ego is something that is always round the corner. It's essentially your shadow, right? Because we want in this world, we want with our flesh to be the best we can be. We just want to have everything at arm's length. Solomon would have, he literally wished for wisdom. He got all the wealth and riches in this world. If you was to read 1 Kings and compare some of the figures that Solomon was doing compared to the riches of today, we are nothing but a speck of dust in comparison to what Solomon had in terms of his net worth, as it were. And yet he still fell to lust. He still let his ego get the best of him because he thought he was better than walking without God at the centre of his heart. He genuinely thought that he was better. And yet we're in the same scenario today, the same predicament, where we basically self-righteously pulled ourselves out of alignment from God. You go on Wall Street in New York, right? There's a golden brazen bull, which is the most sinful thing that you could ever think of, right? Because if you think of when Moses went to get up the 10 Commandments and he came down, first thing they was doing is they was worshipping a god. It was idolatry. It was worshipping something that simply wasn't God. They created their own pagan god. And yet we go all around the world and we see these instances of people either mocking God or creating their own gods. People will worship money. There's people in this world where their own desires, their own ego will, you know, there's people that would do very, very bad things for a speck of money, for $1 million. There's always the question about what would you do for $1 million? And the depths that people will go to, that they will push their ego to, will sometimes shock you. Even myself, for example, with my ego, there were times where I would sacrifice my sleep, my health, go without sleep, waking up at stupid hours, um, just not really, I've never done like illegal things or anything like that, but I'm really saying that, when I woke up, I would let my ego be the compass for the day. I'd be like, right, what needs to be done? How can I be better? How can I be the best right now? And it's okay to want to excel at things. I would always employ you to excel at things, but it's the ego. It's really the perception of the ego that I'm trying to get towards here. And it was another mistake I've made. I would say getting complacent. Complacent would be a big thing. I think that Christianity can be painted in this light of it's all fairy tales, it's all nice things, and that as soon as you get baptized, life will never be hard again, and it will all be sunshine and rainbows. It's not true whatsoever. As my Mario Emanuel would say, get a life. Being a Christian is a job. It's a very, very hard Christian. And I guess I've thought at times that everything would be a walk in the park, everything would be okay. And don't get me wrong, being saved is definitely shone a different light on my life. It's healed a lot of stuff, and it's something that I'll always be grateful for. But it's not to say that my problems have gone away. I've still got to work. I've still got to show up and try to be better every single day and be rooted in my faith as a Christian. Complacency is something that has definitely stung me in the past. Back when I had a personal training business, I used to, I'd do my level 2, do my level 3, and I was always reading, I was always educated and stuff like that, but I was never as driven as I should have been. I got complacent and thought, right, well, I've done the qualifications, read a couple of books, let's just chill, let's just post some content and wait for things to take place. Those clients never came, the signs never came, and I ultimately got complacent, and it was one of the downfalls of the business because I just stopped trying, I just stopped working. In the gym, I pushed my bulking season way too hard because I got complacent and just started eating junk food. It's hard to eat a clean diet of 3,000 calories every single day. It doesn't take a genius to tell you that. You can only eat so much chicken and veg and rice in the day before you just want to gouge your eyeballs out, right? But then to do it dirty, you can just get milkshakes at McDonald's. 3,000 calories can go in one sitting, easy, right? So this complacency of thinking, right, I don't have to try and all the shortcuts around it. There's easier ways to do it. That has been a big mistake because it's ultimately led me astray because it started to create this seedy mindset of, right, I can do it faster. I think I can hack it. I can do it a different way. And this complacency has transferred into different aspects of my life. Sometimes it's been not in posting consistent content. In religion, it has absolutely been complacency within my faith. I haven't read the Bible nowhere near enough as much as I should, and that's something that I'm working on every single day. Church is something that I'm pretty much like set on. I always go every Sunday where I can. Bible study, I go to that, but there's been times where I could have just tried harder. And maybe we're getting onto a point now where you can always try harder. I think as a Christian, our ultimate role model is Jesus. He was the perfect man, but we can never be that. So I guess as a Christian, we're striving towards this standard that we'll never meet. But as long as you walk with Christ in your heart and you don't become complacent, you're always looking to be better. How can you spread the word of the Lord today? That's then when you'll start to see improvements. You'll start to see things come to life a little bit more. So those are some of the sins that I've made and some of the mistakes I made. I hope that you can learn from these.